Hello, everyone, and welcome to this live episode of Inlay Terms. I'm your host, Payman Ascari, and today back with me, is my friend, Mr. René de Vries. Welcome back, René.
Thanks very much, Payman. Great to be on again. I feel honored to return guest.
No, thank you for coming. So, René, I don't really know what to talk about today. Has anything big happened in the world lately?
We've only been watching it for years, right? 8 years, actually, haven't we? Like this whole Trump disaster and then the Biden disaster, and now this. My nerves were frayed yesterday. What we had in my writing, which was interesting, we had Pints in Politics. We had a group of people come together, watch the election results. So that was exciting. So that's definitely, I would think, on everybody's mind, isn't it? What about you?
Yeah.
I saw you couldn't sleep. You went to bed at 3 a.m.
I think it was 4 a.m. My family invited me over for dinner, which is kind of funny. In 2020, like my family, it's not that we're not close. We work together. So we don't really get to talk. Like even 4 years ago, we finally managed to come together and we watched the election night, and everybody knows how badly that went. And then we came back together last night and we were watching it. But it was, I would definitely say my family went from like far, left of center to either center or right of center in these 4 years of hell.
Well, that was the fault, I would think, of the woke crowd who has moved the goalpost on that. Like suddenly everybody who was actually quite centric was now far right? So I think that's been culturally been a crazy shift. And I'm just so relieved and happy that Robert Kennedy, Tulsi Gabbard, and Elon Musk joined the Trump team, and that they then went on to win. Because right now, I think things could actually balance out again, right? If these wars that were escalating to a crazy level can be de-escalated, and if we can work for peace, we can start working for prosperity again, especially in the United States. They get their act together. They deal with the issues of mass migration, which have gotten completely out of hand in the last 4 years under Biden. I think we in Canada also have a fighting chance, and so that I'm very, very energized, actually, very excited also about this. I was hoping for this, and now I think, you know what? Next year it's going to be exciting campaign also for us as PPC candidates, because we're the only alternative really that's fully aligned with the Maha agenda, and who are an alternative to the Uni Party. All we really need to do is make fun of the Uni Party and show how incompetent they were in the last 4 or 5 years, and that there are actually people in this country that are competent and that have a good track record and that can get things done, and that were on the right side of history, and that Max Bernier has been talking about all these issues for 5 years. And so, we now have to get the word out. I think that's our job.
I was watching Charlie Kirk. I think when they announced that Trump won, he broke down and he cried. And I don't know if it was him or the narrator was saying, like he spent 4 years fighting the, I think he used the word uniparty as well. And I almost, like, I don't blame the left. They're freaking out right now. They're having these meltdowns because the media is just like bombarded them with this information. Trump is Hitler, far right extremism. I don't think they realize that the true enemy is this massive professional political cartel we call the Uniparty.
Right, and what you said, the media. In fact, Robert Kennedy was talking about that. If he had this very interesting podcast with Mike Tyson about why he's running and the problems of big pharma and so on, and he said, well, who do you blame here? What's the big problem? Why? It's the media, because they frame something. Including, Trump is Hitler, and then they go with that, and it becomes like a megaphone of nothing else, and people believe it. People hear, that's all they hear, and I guess people are not really critical thinkers, or a lot of people are not, and they just take it for what it's worth, and very dangerous. I think we all agree that Elon Musk saved the world initially by bringing X back, and buying that and taking the authoritarian censorship authoritarians out of business, and opening it up again as a true marketplace for ideas. And we can really be grateful for a guy like that. And I think it's actually very inspiring that one guy can make such a difference, right? Build his businesses and then buy Twitter and then save free speech, then go on to support the political agenda that actually might get us out of this mess. I think this is the American dream and the Canadian dream again, right? Isn't it?
Yeah,
Isn't it
Elon Musk is. Yeah, it is. But like Elon Musk is, I can only imagine what the other like feckless, spineless, 2-digit billionaire CEOs feel like right now, like Mark Zuckerberg or Jack Dorsey. I don't know if he's a billionaire.
Yeah.
But yeah, but like these guys, they just cowered when the government came to them and they said, "We want you to censor." They're like, "Okay," and they just went along. Musk went against the entire government, basically risked his life, and he won. He won.
Mm-hmm. It's super exciting. I think I should think too, and I do know that Elon Musk is an inspiration to a lot of young guys and girls in this country and in the United States as well. And in a way, he liberated. It's not. We shouldn't underplay this. I think that Trump was talking about that as well. North America was liberated again, from this yoke of. I've made jokes about it, not very funny, by the way. Like, yeah, we're under Bolshevik attacks here, and the Bolsheviks are about to take over. The next step would be starting to kill people, right? That's what they did in Russia. That would be the next step. And who knows? If you look around the world, that's not uncommon. That does happen. And, well, they tried it with Trump as well in Butler, Pennsylvania. So we were living on the edge there for a little while. I always joke about that. Doing my consulting work, I have this joke, if you don't live on the edge, you take up too much space. But I don't think none of us in the last 4 years wanted to be on this edge with all the problems, the worries about the economy, the rising cost, the inflation. Then on top of that, the worries about an escalating war to the point of nuclear war. It was just insanity. Now I feel, okay, we can start dialing things down a bit, and we can now get back to business, build peace and prosperity. So, yeah, huge.
Huge? You mean huge?
Yeah. How do you say it in Trumpian?
I'm not good at accents. Yeah. I kind of want to give a recap of how I'm feeling right now. So 4 years ago, they stole the election, and I feel confident saying that because 20 million voters just disappeared. Democrat voters, who knows where they went? But like when you look at the difference between Biden and Kamala,
Zero Hedge came out today, and Scott Rader make the same point. Everybody, I think, has opened that actually, Trump was right about that. In fact, that's what they did, and to me, this could lead to the total collapse of the Democratic Party, right? If this is how they operate, this was never the case. And that's why nobody wanted to believe it when Trump said it 4 years ago. But, well, yeah, look at the numbers. Hello?
Yeah, but so they stole the election, and for 4 years, you weren't allowed to say that. Like, it was a truth that if you spoke it, I don't know, reality would fall apart. So now going into this election last night, I was so pessimistic. I said, they're going to steal it. They're not going to certify. Like, I was so pessimistic. But if we take a look at this, the Republicans, they not only did they win the House and the Senate and the presidency, they got the popular vote, and it was, I guess you could say, a landslide electoral win. So the Democrats are screwed. Like, there's no way for them to contest this. I don't think they have an avenue.
Well, I don't know. Who do you get your news from in the U.S.? Like, since 2008, I started to listen to InfoWars, Alex Jones in Texas.
I was listening to him yesterday.
He's a bit of a crazy man, right? Like, he rants a lot. But turns out Alex Jones was right. It was, by the way, something that was trending on Twitter regularly with many things. And yes, that's why they also needed to take him out, by the way, with this ridiculous $1 billion lawsuit so that he couldn't be talking about news anymore because of that Sandy Hook thing that he covered. He had predicted that this exactly what happened. That's why this guy, he knows his stuff after doing news for 30 years and seeing how things happen. He predicted 9/11 in July of 2001. And that's, I think, where he initially established his credentials. And he's been railing against, the mainstream narrative forever. And as a true ranting Texan, just, going at it without limits, sometimes that's just turned a lot of people off initially because he thought it was a bit of a crazy guy. But turns out, no, he was actually quite correct, talking about a crazy situation where you have globalist kind of groups trying to game the United States for themselves and for their billionaire friends. And it's been exposed now. And we can clean it up. And that's so exciting. Trump, that's what he stood up against. He saw that this actually would smother the entire American dream. And he didn't want that for his kids and for the rest of us. So yeah, this is unbelievable, really, what happened. But I don't know if you follow the backstory of and I was worried. I had the same worry. I went to bed. I kept on listening, and at 1 o'clock it looked okay. I'm just going to pretend that Donald Trump won, and they're not going to steal it, and I'm going to be happy and wake up in the morning and everything, and the world is going to be good. So that's what I did. But yeah, I had the same worry that you had, that you tweeted out, that you wake up and you realize they've stolen the election. Now, I was reading some articles, and this is one thing, by the way, I don't know if you have the same experience, but running as a candidate, the engagement that you have with people gives you so much excellent access to information. You get the latest articles about everything. And if something important pops up, somebody will send it to you. It's fantastic. One of these articles that this guy, he's a physics teacher actually in Stouffville, sent me, high school physics teacher, and he's a supporter and voter for the PPC as well. And he's often sending me these articles. He went on and showed that, because I don't know if you saw that one. This was one of the mainstream interviewers that was showing that trucks were rolling in Pennsylvania. Did you see that? Like, where suddenly at 12 or 1 o'clock, trucks were showing up, and they said, "Well, they're carting in the bastards. They're carting in the fake ballots, and they're going to steal it again." Now, if you read what went on, arrests were made. Like, things happen behind the scene that we don't hear a lot about. But
let me ask you about that.
They were ready this time.
I didn't follow that story. I have a principle now that I don't look at the details. I just look at the broad strokes. But who was it that arrested them? It couldn't have been the FBI. It must have been state or local.
No. These are whatever, the white hats, the red hats, but also civilians. They were all ready. I don't want to start reading an article here in this interview. But here, white hat arrests Pennsylvania newsman for electoral crimes. A lot of these things were happening. Like, and Wolf, I would keep your eyes open for that. Things, and they were ready. Now, they were, I get whatever you want to call them, the white hats. This is the group of people supposedly that was behind recruiting Trump to begin with, when they wanted to clean up the mess that had been created in the U.S. And they are now following through, and basically supporting him in his ascent and maintaining what he has created. Because my opinion is that, this is a great first step, but now the hard work begins, right? Like, first of all, we got to make it to January the 20th without the whole country starting to explode in riots. And then once they start implementing their agenda that will involve massive changes for many people, well, okay, change, nobody likes change again. That's going to be disruptive for people, and people people start to react. So it's going to be a transition period. I would say maybe a year or two, maybe even longer, where There's a lot of churn, a lot of difficulties, potential. Alex Jones has been saying that they're going to stage bomb attacks. They're going to try to bring Trump One or Air Force One down with a missile and blame it on Iran. There's other things that they could do. They could fabricate a mass shooting at a black church just to foment, racial strife. This is all in the cards, possibly. Well, see, this is where Alex Jones starts losing people, because he speculates about these things that might happen, then they don't happen, and then they say, well, see, you're just a ranter coming up with conspiracy theories, and they don't work out. But I think by now people think, well, shit, actually he's been right on 90% of what he's talked about, and we better be careful and pay attention to that. So yeah, we're not out of the woods yet in that regard, in my opinion, and a lot of vigilance required, a lot of dedication, a lot of good people, white hats, red hats, and citizens engaging. You and I, keeping an eye out, talking about what's going on, getting the word out, and making people also feel comfortable with this change that's going to happen now. Because like you said, a lot of how do you call them, normies? They don't need this kerfuffle in their life, so they're gonna just sit on the side a little bit, watch this whole thing. It's gonna play itself out now. It's like, and not everything's gonna be pretty. So
they did a couple of good things. One was they ran a good grassroots campaign. They called it the precinct strategy. So they kind of infiltrated, or they went into every single precinct and they built the ground up movement. The other, I think, that was really important was they got that swamp monster. Who was it that was running the Republican Party? Ronna
Cheney?
McDaniels. No, Ronna McDaniels.
Right.
So they got her out, who completely destroyed the chances of a red wave in the 2022 midterm elections. And they put in this, I guess, Lara Trump. And this is the purpose of a political party. Like you give funds and you build up a legal team and you build up this center so that if there's fraud, you can react. You can't expect the citizens, within reason, citizens can help somewhat, but they can't go to these court cases and fight $1 million lawsuits. And I think they did a good job stopping the fraud this time. And I think that's why he won the popular vote.
Yes. And, you can see this as the logical progression of the whole Trump movement and the MAGA movement. The first 4 years, he wasn't, he was going to drain the swamp, but the swamp drained him, right? Like he didn't know what he was getting into, and it was a lot deeper than he thought. And he got overwhelmed by it. Really. That's a
good bumper sticker. The swamp drained him.
And, but now he was ready. He knew and so I'm actually very, very hopeful that all the things that he's learned up until this point, especially in his first year, 4 years, and then, leading up to this election, that he's much more understanding, careful, and with the help of a team. He's not doing it alone. Even Ron Paul just joined his team.
Yeah.
Dr. No. He's going to be able to do this. It's not like that people are going to say, well, Trump is Hitler and therefore we're going to fight him or impeach him and this and that. No, there's going to be everybody around him is going to say, guys, enough bullshit. We're going to just get back to business here. We want to dream big again. As Americans, we're Americans, and we are going to return the American dream. Did you see that he's seriously thinking about abolishing income tax? Now
Oh God, that would be amazing.
That would be something.
I'll go to Mexico and I'll cross the border illegally. Yeah.
Well, that is a concern, by the way, for Canada, especially in the way we're sitting now. First of all, supposedly all these disgruntled Democrats were going to come to Canada, right? If Trump was elected. So that's a problem, because we don't need those kind of authoritarians, kind of heavy-minded people here messing up what we have. It's already difficult enough. And then, you got the potential brain drain of the smart entrepreneurial class and people going the other way, because they say, well, I've had enough of this nonsense here. I'm going to go to the United States where I can just live my American dream. So that's what Elon Musk did too. So Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's so we have our own challenges. In fact, what they talked about with if they are going to deport the illegals, okay, there's going to be a lot of self deportation going on, whatever you want to call that, where people see this coming and they say, I better get out of here, or the FBI is going to pick me up and throw me over the border in Mexico where I don't want to go. So I'm just going to self-deport to Canada, for example. So we actually need to be super vigilant over the next while to make sure that we don't have whole streams of people coming over Roxham Road again and just adding to our problems here, right? So
That's a good point, and a couple of people have talked about that, the migrant crisis that might come to Canada. Canada is it's bursting at the seams. There's so much taxes, there's so much regulation. So they've regulated industry out of existence.
mm-hmm.
Anybody that can, you talked about the brain drain, they've left. And I
Mm-hmm.
honestly can't blame them. This place is hell. And now you're going to bring in even more mouths to feed. At some point, even someone as stupid as Trudeau or as communist as Guilbeault will have to face reality.
Well, they'll be gone next year, right? Like especially now with Democrats out of power, there's no way that the Liberals are going to recover from this. So they're going to be gone. But yeah, the problem that we have here, I wouldn't wanted to get back to you that on that issue of uniparty. Yeah, they in the United States, Trump fought that as well, and only in his second term he actually successfully skirted around all that issue, because it's true, and that same thing is true in Canada. The uniparty is controlled by a few, whatever you want to call it, the neo-feudal oligarchical class that buys their politicians to rig the game for themselves. Some people call it the Laurentian elite, or if you want to be anti-Quebec, you could make that point. Or you say, no. In Canada, we also have a Bill Gates type class that colludes in order to just rig the game for themselves. And therefore, if somebody organizes something, they'll that could become a resistance movement against their uniparty thing. They'll hijack it and make it part of themselves and use it for their own gain. And that's why at this point they're always, okay, if red doesn't work anymore, we're going to go to blue. And they have actually control of both parties. And so can we ever get out of that? Yeah. Well, the PPC, that's what we're trying, right? It's not an easy task. Same principles apply actually from the United States and what Trump tried to demolish. It took him 8 years, I think, and I counted Biden years part of that to make the case. So I think actually PPC has a similar or even a larger mountain to climb. It's going to take us 8 years in total, maybe longer. Maybe, look at the Green Party. It took them 27 years to get a seat in Parliament. I don't think that's hopefully it won't be that long. But in the first past the post system, that's what happens.
I'm hoping it won't take that long, and maybe I'm optimistic. I think we will get some seats this time. But Gilbert, I'm reading, this is our friend Gilbert, I'm reading his comment. Massive migration, high per capita statistics falsely lowers our default risks. Your other three, I just want to say hi, Gilbert. Your other three comments I couldn't understand. You had grammatical errors. Mass migration, high per capita statistics falsely lowers our default risks. You're going to have to break that down for me, buddy. I'm not as smart as you.
I don't understand it either.
What was I going to say? You and I talked about this offline. I've been in this, I call it like a prison, this sort of hell the last 4 years, from the last election to this election, where my life has just gotten ruined. I have no happiness. I just read the news. And I noticed and I understood very, very clearly the reason that they were attacking Trump and telling him every time he said the election was stolen. They're like, no, Mr. President, there was no fraud, safest and most secure election. If they got Trump to bend the knee and say, you know what, I will say there was no fraud and I'll go away and I'll go play golf. Like if he had done that, I think the entire movement would have just fallen apart.
Oh yeah,
because he was like this pillar that the populist movement in the U.S. was based upon. Yes. Yeah, and I realized that, but no one else around me realized that. They'd be like, oh, he's just a conspiracy theorist. So for 4 years, I've just been frustrated.
Well,
and it seems
we talked
now
about that
like
offline. they were very, and there's a big lesson in there also for us as PPC, and doing the same thing to Max. Okay, these people, they don't want to have an argument about the facts or about your vision or about the things that are important and the reasons why you're unhappy, for example, about the situation. They don't want to talk about, they just like in February 22, they didn't want to talk about the fact that masks were bullshit and that we shouldn't be forced to inject ourselves with an experimental poison. And that they don't want to have that debate because they know they're going to lose it. So what they're going to do, and they are helped by the media with this, and this is why the media is so insidious, and we need to understand that and make sure we're playing smart in that space. They will just play the man. They will not play the ball. Okay, they will go after everybody and anybody that tries to resist this nonsense, and that's how they play the game. So that's. See, you're a fair player. I got to know you. I'm very impressed with you, by the way. As a candidate, people out in Vancouver, please elect this guy to Parliament. He's a fantastic voice and super smart. And I love the way you can have good discussion. Just the fact that you pull everybody in to have these discussions is a part of that. But what was my point? That this is what we have to do.
They go after the man, not the player.
Right. And they'll go after you too, because now you're stupid or you're a conspiracy theorist or you're this or that. They don't want to talk about the subjects because they're going to lose that. And we got to realize that. And you, as a smart and compassionate man, you don't think that way. And therefore you're kind of caught off guard by that. But you better steel your brain to that reality. This is what's going to happen. I've already experienced that as well. People that see me as a candidate now successfully resist is nonsense. They go after the man, not the ball. Like I had to come to grips with that as well, because it's pretty emotional, of course, right? Because you'd like to just talk about the subjects, you like to talk about your vision, you like to talk about the facts and about truth. No, here's some moron coming for your legs right away. Try to kick your legs underneath you, right? No. So you got to be ready.
I've noticed I am not big enough yet that the mainstream media has come after me, thankfully. Mm-hmm. But there are so many, I just call them trolls, and they have like a bag of tricks that they use. And every few weeks, one of the tricks doesn't work. They get that out. A new trick comes in. They test it out, and it's always it's like a high school crew of bullies and their followers, and they come after you. It's always really like low hanging fruit for them. Yeah.
Right. And initially, I didn't understand that what Max was doing. He was on X. He was blocking these people, and a lot of people turn around and say, I ask a question of Max, and he right away blocks me, and that's why he shouldn't be leader. This is the whole thing. This is playing itself out. But I understand now why Max is doing it, because these people are not genuine. They just want to play the man. They don't want to play the ball. They don't want to even have a genuine, honest discussion. They just want to make somebody look bad for whatever reason. Yeah, usually it is because they're defending their uniparty status, or or they feel threatened by somebody who is actually like Trump, who is actually making and Max, who are actually making an honest case against what we're dealing with, and who provide hope for people to get out of this nonsense. And so, people get upset about that, and they go after them. And we all better, all of us candidates, we better wake up to that reality and steel our minds and be ready as we go to battle in 25.
I wanted to say something about Max. When I said that Trump is sort of a pillar and they were trying to get him to renounce this whole stolen election thing, so many people that pretended to be very tough after 2020, they turned into like cowards because they didn't want to admit that this election was stolen. I'm talking about like Victor Davis Hanson. I have a huge amount of respect for him. He's a very tough guy. But right after the questionable elections, he came out. He's like, well, we don't really know what happened, and it's probably best if we just let it go. Something like that. Now, Max, and I know a lot of Conservative Party supporters don't want to hear this. He's been firm on a lot of things. He's been attacked viciously. but he hasn't really changed his position on a lot of these issues in the last 4 or 5 years.
Huh.
That's something to be commended.
Oh yeah, he's steady hand. Yeah, despite what happens, and yeah, he's often attacked too for this issue of well, get over it, and you should get over your disagreement with the CPC. Why don't you just join him now? And that discussion is, in fact, he responded to that online yesterday again, because he felt he had to respond to that. People say, well, you're just splitting the vote and you're just, making it harder for the Conservative Party of Canada to beat Trudeau and this and that. He's laid it out. Why? And what's going to happen? I think at some point, and just like Victor David Hansen will have to now scratch his head after he sees what went on and recognize that, that election was stolen and they did cheat, and we should not allow that. And actually, we should learn from that and improve our entire election system. I think the way Elon was talking, all these machines are going to get out of here. Next election, we need honest election, ID, and we need paper ballots. And this is how we're going to keep honest control of the situation. And so, that's what's required.
If I can jump in, I would say maybe the most important outcome from the election last night, like this is the one that blew me away. I had completely forgotten how fulfilling, rewarding it was for an election to start in the morning and end at night. Like in one day, you knew in BC, it took them 10 days.
Right. Yeah, you just came out of that. Is that actually a concern that there might be shenanigans going on there, or you don't know?
I don't. I mean, I tried following it, and I don't know. There's no evidence. So it's not like the 2020 election where 100% of this ballot goes to Biden. That's obvious. Here, a ballot box went missing. Okay, well, that doesn't necessarily prove fraud. 66 or 68,000 mail-in ballots came in. That doesn't necessarily prove fraud. That just might prove that more
suddenly
people
15,000 appeared, though, wasn't it? Like initially it was a lot lower, and then they found some more. Well, that also concerned me.
I don't know if they found them. It said originally there was 15,000 and then 66,000, but that to me, that's not compelling enough to say that it was stolen. If they sent out 15,000 ballots and 66 came in, okay, then yes, that's stolen. But they didn't explain it well.
Well, the big concern is, and this is exactly what Elon talked about, people shouldn't have this anxiety about the system. Okay, and Trump said also, I thought computers were supposed to make our life better and easier and faster. No, it shouldn't be that now suddenly it takes 10 days instead of 1 day in order to get a result. Obviously, something is not right. I agree with them 100%. And so these things are now going to all be reviewed, and they'll come up with a system that actually is based on integrity. People can feel good about it. Okay, honest elections is a important part of a good running society.
Gary says our BC election started long before the American ones, but are they finished cheating yet?
Yeah, I don't know. You guys can only, maybe you should have investigate a bit. This is what they did in Pennsylvania. They actually went after the cheaters right away on election day, and they arrested them. And there's 27 reports of arrests. So now this doesn't get much airplay, but there's a lot of things that went on there. And so, in order to clean it up, that's may have been required.
I understand it's appealing when somebody cheats and you win. That's you don't want to give that back. I get that. That's appealing. But if it's not a level playing field, people are not going to have faith in the election system.
Right. Well, if the system is not trustworthy, I'm as you know, I'm from the Netherlands originally, and they debated this whole situation of Dominion machines, and should we go to machines? And they come to the conclusion, no. Based on everything we see in the United States, we're not going to go there. This is too risky. There's too many potential questions and potential for cheating and interference. Ballots only and ID, and that seems a bit archaic and rigid, but if you want an honest system, you got to be rigid about certain things, and that's yeah. Maybe with the blockchain, this can change if we have total secure digital options, and everybody's convinced about that, and they can make a case, and just like we're doing with our taxes, we log in through the bank, and that security's everybody's happy that that's 100% secure. Okay, maybe you get to a point that fine, this is how we vote, but not until bipartisan consensus exists that yes, this system is 100% secure. In the United States, for 20 years, that was started, by the way, in Florida. Remember the hanging chats and the cheating then? This was in 2000, right? So they've been talking about election fraud for 23 years. Well, that's a long time. They better clean it up now. So I think it will happen. This is just one of many aspects in the next 4 or 5 years that they'll tackle. And so, well, maybe I'm a bit gullible sometimes and get carried away with my idealism. And yeah, this is all going to be fixed now. Great, okay. So we'll see. Maybe not everything, but it's definitely 100% in the right direction.
I was talking to one of my friends, and we were trying to figure out like what's wrong with why is it better to have 1 day voting as opposed to 10? And it really comes down to like, let's say you have $1 million to run your election system. That's for security as well, securing the building, training people. If you stretch that out across 10 days, then every day you're only spending 100,000. So you're only like, you have less money because you have to spread that money out. So more things can go wrong. Ballots can go missing. Ballot boxes can go missing. People might one day come in and they're not trained. So it really should be 1 day and secure the goddamn building.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it has to be so difficult. And people that do want to make all sorts of exemptions and this and that, okay, there's a motive maybe for thievery and for cheating, right? So I must say, I feel in my body, it's now, I can start breathing, like a certain amount of relief almost. Like I was all tensed up with this situation.
Bro, buddy, 4 years I've been glued to the news. 4 years, as you mentioned, it's like a heightened state of anxiety. Like after 4 years, we're finally, something positive is happening. I mean, little things happened here and there. We got Milei, but we're talking about America here. This is the biggest prize.
Mm-hmm. Don't forget Holland. They elected a populist government.
Well, they did. Yeah, I'm not dinging Holland, but good things happened in Holland and they're happening in the UK, but nothing this big where they win the presidency, the House.
Well, this is massive. Do you follow Kim.com? A tech entrepreneur. He's German, I think, background, and he lives in New Zealand, and he was also under attack from the government.
He's the guy that went. He's been destroyed by the government. The mega.
Yeah, now the government is after him. Yeah. He was saying, okay, and he's listing the entire European leadership. Okay, you're next. You're on the way out. You're on the way out. You're on the way out. You're done. So this is like a massive boulder into a pond, massive ripple effect out to the world. The world is, and Canada could be next year, and Europe, it's in horrible shape, obviously, after the Ukraine disaster that was foisted upon them by BlackRock mostly, and that entire cabal, deep state cabal that wanted this proxy war. And now they're going to have to shut it down because Russia won, and come to the conclusion that shocks, we really messed up here. And when that realization sinks in, let that sink in, then they're all going to be gone. They're all going to be voted out because the population could be so fed up. Like their money went into it, and we're not even talking about the people that lost generations of young kids, like in Ukraine. I don't know how people recover from that. Ukraine is a particular place of hell, I would say, right? Like first Stalin comes in, then Hitler comes in, and now BlackRock moves in. Like, what the heck? I'm glad I wasn't born in Ukraine.
Poor guys. Yeah, they almost have it as bad as Poland. They got pummeled in the World War. René, I'm just looking at the website. So Kamala Harris got 67 million votes. That's 67 million people in the U.S. voted for her, and by extension for Biden. Just that whole administration. Like, look at the mistakes that they made. Ukraine is one. They attacked the Nord Stream pipeline. That disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, which was humiliating, and it left a whole bunch of weapons. But this is the one
Hey,
that really blew my mind, and I saw this happening in real time when they sanctioned Russia, and I'm like, well, all right, if you want to destroy the SWIFT banking system, that's probably the best way you can do it. And they're about to lose their prime reserve currency status.
It's a total disaster. It's like, if you want to do this on purpose, you couldn't even do it better, almost, probably, right? As the political class. Like, look at what BRICS has been created now. Like, I don't know if you saw the chart, but the G7 economic output and the BRICS output right now is this, right? Like, the BRICS surpassed the G7. And yes, if that de-dollarization continues as it looks like it is now, and the U.S. doesn't recover from it in some sort of way, as Trump is wanting to do with his tariffs, yeah, it's going to be massive decline in living standards. The reason why the United States had it so good for so long is because they were the world reserve currency, and that has great implications if that changes, and yeah, with Iran, Saudi Arabia, Turkey was also interested. You got how many countries are joining BRICS? These people have had enough, right, with the bullying of the deep state. And didn't that boomerang on them? Massive. Like, Russia is stronger than ever before. Their military wasn't even half as capable when this conflict started, and now they've expanded. They've got, yeah, it's unbelievable. It's the incompetence of the willful destruction that they imposed on the Western society, all in the name of wokeism, or what was it? Like environmental. Maybe you could go into the next topic. For environmental friendly reasons, they had to destroy the West. So,
Before before getting to that, I just wanted to say
yeah.
one last thing. So the sanctions on Russia, to me, that's the nail in the coffin. But if I think this has been building up since 9/11, like the weaponization of the financial system, the monetary system, the US, like it was, I guess it was perfectly acceptable when they did it to Iran. Everyone's like, oh, it's a terrorist country. And then they did it to Saddam Hussein, and then they did it to Gaddafi, and now they've done it to Russia. And it's in your face. And people are like, I don't want to be a part of this monetary system if tomorrow they might attack my country.
Well, yeah, this is like mafia fascist practices, right? If you don't want to play ball, we'll bomb you to smithereens. That's how this is. Like, what the heck? The free West. It's well, embarrassing. It's more than that. I don't know if you follow the statistics in Ukraine, but you know that 700, 800,000 Ukrainian young guys died there in that war, and we're talking over 1 million if you count the Russians. It's atrocious. It's ridiculous. And yeah, I don't know. Have you followed or have you seen the interviews I did for? We're running this podcast. My former agent and I. It's called the Convoy Memorial Podcast. We had this Dr. Hughes on from UK Lincoln University, and he wrote this book about COVID-19 and psychological operation, he called it. His point was that really what the Western elite decided to do, the deep state decided to do, is to unleash an omni-war on the population. So in different ways, hot wars, cold wars, climate change, inflation, like it's just like misery piled upon disaster, just to keep people all off guard. And in the meantime, yeah, with an agenda of depopulation. Well, that may, I don't know, I thought it was an interesting viewpoint. Who knows? And so
I agree.
You agree? Yeah. He says,
well,
actually,
the omnivore, yeah.
Yeah. He said that really this was World War III, but most people don't realize that we're in this world war, and it's fought in different ways than it was ever before, including this bioweapon unleashing this on everybody, right? Inject yourself with this spike protein, and now you're one of the casualties of war. That yeah, it's heavy. Anyways, I think we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel.
So yeah, I hope so. The omnivore thing you're talking about, that kind of aligns with Bill C-293, which aligns with the WHO pandemic treaty with this whole One Health thing, where I think at this point they're just like, why don't we just create the ministry of everything, and we can put human health and animal health and plant health and environment and energy. So basically, they just want to control absolutely everything. And I think hammering us from every single angle is a way to demoralize us.
Yeah, yeah, it's horrible. This is not what we signed up for, first of all, right, as immigrants to North America. And I think the good thing is there's enough people living here that also don't want this. So they're resisting, and the Americans have now shown they've stood up and said no more. And so I think it's day of celebration.
Yeah. I'll crack open the champagne after this.
Yes. I'm drinking water
René,
here, so.
Oh yeah, I'm drinking my American light beer in honor of Donald Trump.
Okay, in honor of the Americans, yes. Oh, yes, one little joke about that. You know that Winston Churchill predicted this? That this is one of his quotes. Our American friends are known to do the right thing only after exhausting all other possible options. So
seems about right, yeah.
It's about right, yeah.
René, let's transition to sort of like climate change, environmentalism, your career, and your book. Take it away.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, well, so this climate alarmism, as I call it, I like that word the best, is one of the branches, I guess, that Dr. Hughes calls in the omnivore, unleashed on the population, right? To mold in a certain direction, and others will call it the Great Reset. This has been imposed on us, and environmentalism is in fact a tool in that. And now I wrote in order to reconcile my own career in environmental engineering, as I've been doing this all my life. I graduated in the Netherlands with a BSc in environmental engineering and science, and became a professional geoscientist in Ontario in 2004. And 2004 or a bit later. Anyways, yeah, around that time. And environmentalism, especially in the last 5 years, when the carbon authoritarians, or as Kennedy calls them, the carbon orthodoxy people moved in, environmentalism it's all become about carbon dioxide, right? That's the big problem. And it's like this global emergency that we have to now go to war with. And that's the only big problem that's out there. And that's why we have to pay carbon taxes, we have to fight climate change, like we're fighting some war. And I work in that business, and I became a bit resentful for this one-minded way of looking at things. And mainly from a perspective of, listen, I'm a scientist, and I'm somebody who likes to base things on truths and facts, okay? And hysteria and alarmism doesn't have a place in that. And so, if for example, related to climate change, I was just thinking about that before this interview. Yeah, you can be quite alarmist and worried about rising water levels when you live in a country like the Netherlands, where they've fought the sea for 1,000 years. And if they wouldn't do that properly, people drown. In 1945 in the Netherlands, 2,000 people drowned because there was a big storm, and the defenses weren't there to keep all the water out. Now, that's a reason to be alarmed, right? And that to be vigilant about keeping the water out, building your defenses, and to study, is this sea level actually rising, and do we need to worry about it 10 years from now? So I think to some extent, the anxiety there is legitimate, and I think one of the birthplaces of environmentalism is in fact Western Europe and the Netherlands also. Now, my book explores this whole subject because I need to reconcile this also as a candidate who fights against climate alarmism, but who is in fact supportive of environmental measures. How can you reconcile the two? And so that's what that book is about. If you look back at the history, in 1968, France almost fell to the communists. Did you know that de Gaulle actually fled the country briefly?
Almost.
Yeah. At that point, I think and in my opinion is this was in response to Vietnam, right? Vietnam was this unjust war that the hippies rebelled against. They basically said no more. They listened to General Eisenhower that we need to engage in order against the war machine, against the military-industrial complex. I was part of that generation too. I loved Muhammad Ali because he was saying, I ain't got no beef with that Viet Cong, and he went to jail because he was not going to go to war. And so the Western elites decided we need something unifying. We need something that, like we need a boogeyman that unifies our people and that we all agree on. And they agreed on the environment. It's going to be that thing. So environment has been used as a social engineering tool. Now, is that good? Is that bad? I think if it leads to good results, it doesn't necessarily have to be bad. If it leads to clean air, to clean water, to better sanitation, those are all good environmental outcomes, and I will advocate for them as well. And yes, the entire environmental movement was largely built on that initially. I don't know if you know Dr. Patrick Moore with EcoSense in BC. He works there, right? He became PPC member recently, by the way. We'll see a lot more prominent Canadians become PPC members soon. But he describes that whole process. He said he was one of the founders of Greenpeace. And he, in a genuine concern about the environment, and at that point it was also about the nuclear bomb testing in pristine areas and other things, and the disposal of chemical waste in the ocean and shit like that, and legitimate concerns for environmental concerns that are important. And he said that was the right thing to do, to fight for a clean environment, for clean seas, for clean fish, for this and that. But he said what happened, that the green movement and the environmental movement was hijacked by large commercial interest, I guess, but also by the social engineers that said, oh, this is a fantastic subject. And he said at one point, this movement became anti-human and turned itself against people. People became the problem. And this is also where, the carbon orthodoxy has oscillated too far. The pendulum swung too far. Like now, the only way that you can actually fight this is have no more children, because that's the right thing to do for the environment. Well, what kind of insanity is that, right? Like, so I've lived through the entire movement of okay, first of all, the reason why I defend my business, and I will go up against any doctor on this discussion, especially now in the vaccine debate. I love to have that discussion. It's the engineers and the people that designed the sanitation and clean water and took care of making sure that our sanitary waste was properly treated. That is the reason why life expectancy increased in Western society, not because the doctors were out there injecting people with vaccines. So I'll have that debate anytime. But so I'm proud of my profession that way as well. I feel we contributed to humanity, and I will defend that. But of course, I'm not going to defend this hijacking at the end where the entire profession potentially becomes anti-human. So that that in a nutshell is what has happened. And I think the pendulum will now completely swing the other side. You could say it could potentially go too far. Okay, everything environment is now bad. Any money spent on environmental measures, oh, sustainability is bad. No, if you do it right, it's a good thing to do. But you have to have an understanding of cost, and I'll be a big proponent, and you can see about that in my book about total life cycle costing, where you understand, well, what is the impact, environmental impact of this particular product or service or infrastructure, and what is the cost, and then do a rational cost benefit analysis, and then make your decisions, all based on facts and truth, and informing policy decisions. That's the right way to go about it. But so now, one thing that shouldn't happen now with the pendulum swinging back, okay, well, throw the baby out with the bathwater, no more environmental issues. Let's spray everything with pesticides. Who cares about environmental issues? No, of course, all these, we have to take this rationally. So, it's as you can see, I get passionate about it. It's
René,
near to my heart. Sorry?
What's the name of the book, and when are you going to release it?
In March of 2025. It's going through editing right now. I have a publisher, and cool. It's called 80 Years of Toxic Soup. It's my personal testimony of why I'm in politics, and also reconciling this issue of environmentalism. The one thing I wanted to add to that is, see, when the social engineers embraced the environment as their go-to thing to move society move the needle in society in a certain way, and with that embraced what I would call neo-Malthusian type of mindset and anti-human, and moved the environmental movement into an anti-human position, and made it part of their Great Reset, because there it really was driven to an extreme. That's where they overplayed their hand, especially if they then go and start injecting people with experimental poisons. Like, now you really overplayed your hand, and now we see the backlash, right? I think actually MAGA and MAHA is the backlash of that. And great. Isn't that great how pendulums swing and how people react, and actually how change, like you got a group of people want to do their reset, and now the Great Reset provokes the Great Awakening. Wow. It was Yuval Harari that said, if Trump wins, globalism is dead.
Thank God. You heard it there first.
We killed it. Yeah. So, and as far as environmentalism is concerned, well, yeah, I get into much more detail. For example, one thing we should be doing on the whole debate between internal combustion engines and EV, electrical vehicle discussion, do a rational analysis of the two and look at, okay, what's needed from an infrastructure perspective to fuel these cars, and what are the costs, and what's wrong with that analysis when you make such an important policy shift, like, okay, well, we're all going to go and drive electric cars now. Is that the right thing to do? Why don't you want to inform those decisions based on good studies, scientifically determined studies? See, this is the kind of thing where I think government should spend some money on, as far as in the Ministry of the Environment, where that information becomes public knowledge, and then you can come up with a rational policy direction and say, yeah, my opinion is that we should have a mix, just like Trump talked about that. We should have electrical cars, we should have internal combustion engine cars and other hybrid cars, and maybe at one point we even have zero gravity cars, if a new technology develops. And let it be based on cost benefit, and do a rational analysis around that. That's the American dream. That's what we should attain, or should strive for. And I think that I'm very happy, actually. And also, as far as that's concerned, I'm excited that now that how my profession was hijacked by a certain amount of social engineering fanatics, that's going to now right itself. and we're going to go back to science. We're going to get back to sound basics. And yeah, that makes me happy too, because I was getting also pretty unhappy actually by thinking, well, yeah, I'm an environmental scientist and now I'm a depopulation expert, or what's going on?
So you're calling it like the hijack, and we're hijacking it back. I
Yeah.
think the whole climate change narrative is falling apart. They made a mistake when they called CO2 a pollutant. That I
Yes.
mean, everything they say is pretty much a lie, but that one is blatantly obvious.
Yeah.
Um, but like this whole carbon thing, like going after carbon, people are just fed up with it. They're like, you know what? I'm a good person. Let me live my life.
Yeah.
Go piss off.
Yeah.
Stupid plastic bag bans and plastic straw bans. It's frustrating. Meanwhile, they're dropping like tons and tons of munitions and all these artillery
Yeah.
shells in Ukraine. And I can't get a freaking plastic straw. Some turtle's gonna die somewhere. You're killing a whole like flock of
Well, at
geese.
least the tanks were driven on electrical power, right? So
Yeah, could you imagine? Yeah, blow up an electric tank. The fire just burns for a week. Yeah.
yeah, it makes no sense. Well, I call this give somebody enough rope to hang themselves, and that's exactly what they did, right? And that's what they specifically did, and Big Pharma did that as well and Bill Gates specifically with his experiment, mRNA experiment. So
Yeah,
yeah,
let's leave that one for a whole nother day.
yeah.
I have Gilbert. Let's see if we can understand this question now. I was talking about Canada national debt and economic metrics calculation based on population per capita. Mass migration allows Trudeau, Carney, and the current government, Tiff Macklin. I was talking about
Oh,
the
to
Canadian national.
basically, yeah, that's true. I guess I understand what he's trying to say is that by bringing in more people, now the metrics look actually good, right? Like, so it's sort of like you have decline, per capita decline, but because you get more people,
Oh,
and you can make
okay.
the case that no, look, GDP is overall growing, so everything's fine, right?
Yeah, let me dumb that down for people on my education level. If everybody is making Canada's making $20,000 a year, and then next year they're making $10,000 a year. If you start bringing in a whole bunch of people that have $100,000, you'll make it look like they're actually making 30,000 a year. So you're skewing the numbers, I guess.
Yeah, but
It's a
also
cash
just
infusion.
the volume. If all you talk about is look, now we got 10 people working that make $10,000. Before you had 5 people working making $20,000, and you add that to it. Well, you still have absolute growth, but you're masking the fact that the individual living standards and even gross national product per capita is decreasing. So yeah.
I think Canadians are getting poor faster than immigrants are bringing in. Like they're just getting poor, and they're masking it with all these rich immigrants, relatively rich immigrants.
Right. Well, that's sure. That's one thing, but I think we do need to be vigilant about this. If we're passive about this, as the Conservatives have been known to just sit on their hands and see what happens, this could be a total disaster waiting to happen with Mega now. If they go ahead with all their measures that they've been talking about, right? Writing off the interest on car loans, abolishing income tax. They're going to go there. No more tax on tips and on overtime and all this. We're going to not just see a brain drain. We're going to see like a waiter drain to Las Vegas. Like
I'm gonna
we're
quit
gonna be
my job.
scratching
I'm
our
gonna
heads.
become a
All we
bartender.
will have will be left is people that work at Tim Hortons that come from China and India, and we're gonna be wondering what the heck happened here.
Man, we really got to end this episode, but I just want to say I went to get pizza today, and all of our labor force, they're all foreign labor that's been imported, and they don't speak English. I was like struggling with the guy. I'm like, give me a deep dish pizza, but it was a Domino's. So if you spoke English, you would have told me it means it's a pan pizza. I was there for like 10 minutes until somebody came out of the back
Oh,
to
this
cook.
is maddening.
Yeah, and like nothing against the guy. I'm sure he's a wonderful human being, but he doesn't speak English.
Right. Well, have some minimum standards, right? Like, why not have a test whether you can actually speak the language? That's what I had to do when I came here. TOEFL test. I remember it. test of English as a foreign language. You had to have a passing grade, otherwise you couldn't even, you wouldn't get your immigrant visa. What's wrong with that, right? Like that's just a basic function of being able to operate in a society.
This is this has been going on for a very long time. I remember when 9/11 happened, there was a I'm going on the other side of America now, a Philly cheesesteak famous restaurant in Philadelphia, and they put a sign outside their window that said, "Everyone here is welcome, but if you don't, but speak to us in English. If you don't speak English, we won't serve you." All right, it's a bit of an aggressive comment to make, but they just hammered them and they hammered them, and everything is like every year, so many more things get considered as racist to the point where now, like even the language requirements, proficiency test is probably racist.
Yeah, very racist. No Dutch people allowed here when they speak when they don't speak any English. Well, what? So be it.
I mean, like if you don't speak Farsi and you go to Iran, like what do you? You're not going to get work.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Try to go and move to Japan. See how that works out.
Exactly. Yeah. René, I'm going to hold you until after the episode, but we've passed the 1 hour mark. Do you want to? Is there a plug for?
No, this is great. I got rid of my egg, so to speak, on my book and on my discussion about my career and how that people are, like what we talked about that earlier, play the man, not the ball. Kind of people are attacking me. Oh, well, you work in environmental business. How can you reconcile that with your PPC candidacy? There must be something wrong with you. No, I can, and there's nothing wrong with me. So, yeah, I just want to warn you as well, and also other candidates that are watching this. Please prepare yourself for that mindset. You don't think that way, but people will attack you just for being a member of the PPC or for trying to want to create change and resist this insanity. They're not going to be able to debate the facts. They will want to just kick their legs from underneath you. So just prepare yourself for that.
If you wanted a good, peaceful life, you shouldn't have joined the PPC.
That's right. If you want a peaceful life, just go and sit and sip pina coladas on the beach somewhere.
That sounds delightful. All right, René, thank you very much for coming on. And thanks to the audience as well. If anybody wants to come on the show.
It was a great discussion.
Anytime.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I liked it. And yeah, if anybody wants to come on, send me an DM me or email me at info@paymentascari.ca. Bye, everyone. Bye, René.